I want to talk about Sean Murphy because he just inked an extension with the Atlanta Braves. Obviously, major win for the Braves, major win for Sean Murphy. Do you have the exact numbers in front of you? I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And
let me see.
I've got him.
You got it.
Did Spot Track? Yeah.
I know it's well below market value.
So they bypassed all 3 years of arbitration. This was supposed to be his first year of arbitration. He's making 4 this year. He's making 9 next year. He's making 15 in his final year of arbitration. His first 3 free agent years are 3 years, $45 million, and they have a $15 million club option in his age 34 season in 2029. So you're looking at his 4 years that he would be into free agency at 4 years, $60 million. For one of the better catchers in baseball. Like,
well, I think he continues to get better.
Just continues to get better. So I think at the end of this year, we might be talking about Sean Murphy as a top 5 catcher in baseball. Real quick, in a vacuum for Murphy, obviously it'd be nice to bet on yourself, but it's also nice to have this long-term security.
Yeah.
I think he's probably really happy with this deal.
Yeah, dude, I don't get it. I don't get, like, we really remove the human aspect of this and forget like what we would be like. Have a little bit of introspection here, right? Like, what are you doing in this spot? Are you turning down $73 million when you have gone up, climbed through the minor leagues, seen really talented players flame out for different reasons, injuries, whatever it may be, right? You have an opportunity to sign for $73 million guaranteed. I will live my life quite happy with a fraction of that, right? So and here's the thing too, he's going to hit free agency either at age 33 or 34, which is old, but he could sign another deal and put those earnings closer to 100 million. When you can guarantee yourself that kind of money, I think you take it in 2 seconds, right? And I think it's really interesting. We kind of just look at the numbers and we don't really compute the money. And it's just like, oh, well, technically that's below market value and this and that and that. Okay, cool. Let me open a door to a room filled, stacked up with $73 million. And you say, no, I'm going to close that door and I'm going to try to just wait it out for 3 more years. And I'm going to open a door with double that in 3 years. Sure. Bet on yourself, I guess, but you're a catcher, a position where you get beat up and you can guarantee yourself that kind of money and still get another deal on the back end. It's not like he's going to be 38. I was surprised that he took that extra year. I would, if I were him, I definitely would have, and I'm sure he may have tried to push for free agency at 32 or 33. Yeah. But you know what? You got to give on both ends to get, and the Braves are paying up. They are paying up in the pre-arb side of things. So look, at the end of the day, I think it shows you there's a reason why Big League Advance exists, right? Yes. And I think this is a very similar concept, except they don't have to give up really anything to anybody else aside from the fact that they're taking below market value, but they're guaranteeing themselves money here.
Correct.
These guys are happy to do it. And sure, there'll be some that don't take it, but you think anybody's more confident in themselves than Ronald Acuna Jr.? Do you think there's many players that are more confident in themselves than Ronald Acuna Jr.?
No. And another guy that jumps out, I think Ronald Acuna might be the most confident player in baseball.
But he's also smart enough to see $100 million and take it.
Correct.
And sure, maybe if he waited another year or two, he could have got more. But how about now? You think they're offering him that kind of money now? I don't know. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. He had a rough year last year.
Yes,
but you can see the fragility of it, right? Like he blew his freaking knee out. Like it was scary. And who knows? He could do it again. I hope not. But like, I always think it's interesting how, we're always operating under best case scenarios when it comes to these deals. And I love the way that the Braves are able to leverage this, man, because every time they make the trade, it's always for a player with control who they will subsequently pre-arb extend. Yes. So not only are you getting the value in the trade, you are extending those guys to where you don't ever have to pay big money in free agency, right? You never have to do the 10, 13-year deals that AJ Preller loves to do, right? That these other teams love to do. And guess what? You get way more bang for your buck because now you can pre-arb deal 3 or 4 guys for the price of 1 free agent, right? And that's the thing. Are those candidates going to come up often? No. It's really hard to find pre-arb guys that are available for trade that can really move the needle for you. But guess what? Every time there is one available, who's pouncing on those players? It's the Braves. It's Alex Anthopoulos. He's not trading for the guys with 1 year of control. He's trading for the guys with 3 years of control and then leveraging that. And that's how he's basically killing two birds with one stone. And that's why the Braves are going to be much like the Bobby Cox-led Braves and be a dynasty for the next decade, or at least a perennial contending team.
And the only quote unquote rentals that the Braves are moving for is at the deadline, right? It's when they need to make that final push. And
low cost moves, though. It's Jorge Soler, it's Eddie Rosario. You're not trading top prospects. Yeah, they didn't trade good prospects.
Bryce Ball. Yeah. Not trading anybody for those rentals at the deadline here. Another guy, you mentioned the confidence of Ronald Acuna. Michael Harris is another guy that screams confidence, right? Michael Harris, rookie of the year this year. He's a free swinger. If you've ever seen a free swinger, I mean, this guy does not walk. I want to shout out what he tweeted here. At It's Josh Wolf put together this thread. I can't wait for 2025 when half the Braves roster are demanding trades or huge salary bumps because the rest of the league is getting paid 5 times what they're getting paid. Like, do you really think in 3 years Michael Harris is going to be content getting paid $9 million a year if he's a top 5 center fielder and his counterparts are getting 25 to 30 million a year? There's no way, man. Somebody quote tweeted that at Mavis11, tagged Michael Harris at Money Mike. How do you feel? Twitter wants to know. Bring us that ring. And Michael Harris in strictly emojis said, shrug, ... bag is bag. Like, don't care. Money's money. That's the thing, man. I mean, Michael Harris secured generational wealth. Like, Sean Murphy secured generational wealth. At a certain point, you got to be okay with $80 million and not, bank on the chance you get 150. If you offered me 80 right now, or the chance at 150 when I'm 35, I'm taking the 80 right now, man. Yep. There's no doubt in my mind. So, yes, I agree with you. The human element is there, but the Braves have gotten so good at this. I want to pull up this Passan tweet real quick because he lays out, who they've signed here. And I want to go about the situation that they've signed these guys in. Michael Harris, midway through a rookie of the year season, right? He's under control through 2032. Austin Riley, MVP caliber season. They signed him midway through that through 2033. Matt Olson through 2030. They saw him on the A's. They said, I like that. They signed him before he played a game in their threads.
Yep.
Sean Murphy on the Oakland A's. AA said, I like that.
Seen enough.
Seen enough. A game in the threads, right? Strider, midway through a rookie of the year caliber season and a flirting with Cy Young caliber season, they signed him through 2029. Ronald Acuna Jr., after they see the promise, signed him through 28. Vaughn Grissom signed him through 28 after they see the promise. Ozzie Albies after they see the promise through 27. Fried is the only guy they haven't extended. And then you got Kyle Wright here still on pre-arb. So, I mean, they are set up for so much success. And this is where I want to move it to the good organization conversation, because I retweeted a video that Bally Sports South put out, and it was Alex Anthopoulos in the cards.
He was like in his car.
Yeah, and he had like freshly
big hair. Yeah, I would say big hair gel guy. I had no idea.
Yeah, massive hair gel. He needs a cut. He needs a haircut. But
yeah, a little too long. I mean, I'm cool with the hair gel look. But it's just he's got a lot going. Almost hitting the ceiling there.
Right. It was a bit too high. But the essence of what AA was saying, and, go check out, that tweet if you want to hear the whole thing. But the essence of what he was saying was, there's a flip of the coin on each of these deals, right? Because there's a chance, and he looked at the roster themselves. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. has proven that he's a superstar, but he struggled to stay on the field. Mike Soroka finished second in Cy Young voting and hasn't thrown in the last couple of years. There's always a chance this doesn't work out. But the thing that I loved that he highlighted was the sense of security and the importance of continuity. And it's the guys that are in the clubhouse year in and year out that have the loudest voices in the clubhouse.
Yeah. Well, and let me play the devil's advocate on that point. Or actually not even. I guess I'd be on your side, so I wouldn't be the devil's advocate on it. But how about the fact that, you're pretty much rolling the dice with a free agency deal too, right? Like, yes, sure, you have a few more years of success, but like at the same time, I've seen more than enough of Sean Murphy to know that this guy's a very good catcher.
Correct.
I've seen more than enough of Matt Olson to know he's a very good first baseman. I can understand it's a more of a roll of the dice with like a Michael Harris, given that it was very quick and early into his career. But also, that's a guy that if you wait another year or two, you might not even be able to pre-arb him for anything less than the Acuna deal. So, I would argue that a lot of free agent signings are massive risks too, because you got to go long duration and you got to go at a higher AAV. So relatively speaking, I still think the pre-arb deals are a lesser risk. And I think Alex Anthopoulos knows that. And, of course, acknowledging the risk and that the team is taking on here, which is why the players are able to take these deals. They're comfortable taking because it's financial security. But at the end of the day, I'll roll the dice on, a pre-arb guy for a quarter of what a free agent will cost any day of the week. I mean, we're looking at, look at some of the free agent deals this year, right? I promise you a lot of them are not going to work out. Some of them might be disasters. Some of them might be okay. Some of them will be great. But I would rather roll the dice on pre-arb guys at lower average annual value than to go just try to splash in free agency and piece together a team like that on top of what you were saying about all of the continuity points and things like that as well. So I think they've really figured it out here. And when you look at a Michael Harris, by the way, bag is bag. He's going to get another bag because there's going to be a club option for $15 million when he's 30, another club option for $20 million when he's 31. So that, those will both presumably be picked up. That's still another $35 million. He hits free agency at 32 years old. He can get himself another big time contract.
Bag, dude. I mean,
he'll get another bag.
Got himself
so
a bag at 30.
He'll finish his career with $200 million in earnings. So like, I'm not worried about that for him, and he's not worried about that. Right. So that's the thing. But yeah, I like what they're doing here. And I really don't think it's that much of a risk. Like, I think people overemphasize the risk of pre-arbing these guys because look, if Michael Harris is a disaster, what is a Michael Harris version of a disaster? A fourth outfielder? Bellinger? Yeah. Like Bellinger, who just got what?
16 from the Cubs.
You will never see Michael Harris unless his team options are picked up make more than $12 million, right? So that's the highest amount he'll make in 1 year, which is in 2030. He'll make $12 million. So if Michael Harris doesn't work out, if he somehow forgets how to hit, he's still an elite defender at $12 million. There's legitimately almost no risk to me there. There really isn't. Like, yeah, sure, you'd wish that you could get out of it if he somehow sucks in 2 years and you still got all these years left, but man, if the worst thing I've got is a elite defensive center fielder who can run and still run into baseballs at about $8.5, $9 million a year for the next 8 years. Okay. All right. I'll take the loss, I guess.
Another thing there on the flip side, because obviously, Harris is low risk because of what he does defensively. Austin Riley is their biggest and most lucrative extension here. I think Austin Riley is one of the best pure hitters in baseball. And I'm thinking, okay, assuming health, what does a bad version of Austin Riley look like? And I've got no idea because I frankly don't think the bat can even drop to league average because his approach is so simple. His swing is so quiet. I mean, he is honestly like, I want to say like the Kmart Miguel Cabrera, and the Kmart Miguel Cabrera is still a perennial all-star.
Is a superstar potentially. And I think he's on the cusp of that. And again, like this was a guy that they didn't know exactly what was going to come about of Austin Riley. And clearly he's put it all together with them. He was somebody that they were trying to trade for JT Realmuto. Marlins weren't interested. Marlins preferred Sixto and Co from the Phillies. Right. So for him to figure it out the way he has with the Braves, I think is a testament to him, testament to the Braves too. And I think for them to recognize now this is a different hitter, this is a different player. Okay, we're going to give him this deal. Is pretty amazing, right? They didn't give him the deal a year ago or a year and a half ago for a reason, and he had been up for a little while. So that's another one at $22 million a year. That's not going to sour on them. I think it's technically 21.2 if you factor in all the years. That will not sour on them, and if it does somehow, I'm willing to lose on one of those with how much they're going to save on the others. And I wonder what kind of blueprint this lays for other teams, because we haven't really seen any other teams go this hard on the pre-arb deals, right? Like what other team, we're going to talk about like to wrap up some other good franchises. What other teams are really leaning into the pre-arb deals with like several of them?
Had this conversation with Taylor Davis. And Taylor made a great point. Again, Taylor Davis going to be hosting a podcast on the Just Baseball Network right after the new year called Show and Go with Taylor Davis. I'm doing that with him. It's a player-focused podcast where Taylor and I are going to talk about the current happenings in baseball, but we're also going to have, a variety of big name player guests on.
Yeah, can you say some
career.
of them?
Yes. So episode 2, first player interview is going to be Alec Mills, but then I think we jump right to Dylan Cease, Adley
He's pretty
Rutschman,
good.
Gunnar Henderson, and the list will keep on going. I think D Gordon said he wants to hop on. D Strange.
Oh yeah, that's not, dude. I mean, because of how much we record, I have like no bandwidth left to listen to podcasts on baseball.
Right.
But I can promise you that's going to be the one I'm listening to, because I listening to Taylor Davis and yourself, I'm jealous that you get to talk to those guys. It's a huge addition to our network. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited about it too. But I mean, Taylor and I were talking about it, and he said, yes, like the Braves are obviously the one that have made it sexy, but the first mover there was the White Sox and Rick Hahn, because they did it with Eloy Jimenez, they did it with Luis Robert, they did it with Tim Anderson, they did it with Yohan Moncada, right? So, they've done it, and the Braves have just perfected it, and they've gone almost overkill. But overkill, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, the Phillies did it early too. Didn't work out
early too. Yeah,
Scott Kingery.
The Astros did it with John Singleton. Didn't work out for them. So it's about IDing the right guy.
And that's the funny thing is I did a dive on Kingery recently, and I'm like, how did this go wrong? And honestly, he was not a pre-arb. I know hindsight's 2020.
Yeah,
but didn't have that much of a track record of hitting. Had kind of a breakout, put it together, major swing adjustment that kind of clicked that breakout, but didn't have that much of a track record of it, and had some whiff concerns always. So that was a wild pre-arb guy. But even then, look at the Phillies, right? They lose out. Like, this was a bad deal for them. They're going to pay Scott Kingery $8 million this year. It stinks. It hurts. It stings. But then it's over. It's a club option for $13 million next year. I promise that they decline it. And guess what? People were questioning why Scott Kingery would take it. I remember talking to a couple of my buddies in pro ball, and this was early in it. And I asked them, would you take this deal if you were going off? And they were like, hell yeah, I would. Yeah. I'm still going to be able to get my bag at 30, and if I can't, they'll pick up my options. And that means I'm making $13-14 million and I'm playing great. I don't care. I'll make that. If they're picking up my options, that means I'm making other money elsewhere too. Cool. What's interesting now is Kingery, he's doomed. He might be out of baseball after this year. After they decline this option, he might be out of baseball. But thank goodness for him, he's got $20-something million to his name, and it worked out for him financially. So that's just an example of it. It wasn't, it didn't work out the way he hoped. I'm sure he's not thrilled. I'm sure he's very disappointed in himself, but at least he has something to show for what he did to get to where he was. And, I'm sure he wished it went better, but he's got $24 million to his name.
2 others going on right now: Paul DeYoung, David Bodie. Both those guys are probably AAA guys. DeYoung might be a major league
Both guy. Candidates that should not have gotten them. Hindsight again, but like David Bodie.
Yeah, weird. But David Bodie's secured generational wealth, which is great.
Yep.
I want to play a quick game. I've got 3 words that I think every quote unquote good organization in Major League Baseball falls into. The 3 words are innovator, culture, I know, corny, and growth. Innovator, culture, growth. I want you to throw me these names, and I'm going to put them into each of those buckets, because there are a lot of teams that fall into multiple of those 3 buckets.
Okay, I'll make it easy. First one, I know where you're putting what bucket these guys go in. Tampa Bay Rays.
Tampa Bay is their growth, right? Like, that's what they do. They develop guys.
I would have said innovator.
They are innovators in what they do on the field, but think about the development, right? They are so good at developing what they get, but innovator as well. They fall into innovator and growth.
Innovative growth.
There we go. Growth because of the development that you see.
But the really good orgs will fit into multiple buckets here.
Exactly. And Tampa Bay, I mean, they're innovators because you look at the pitching front, right? Take a guy that's got a really good slider. Take a guy that's got a really good fastball like Nick Anderson. Throw it all the time. Lean into perfecting that. And then on the hitting side, you take an 18-year-old in Wander Franco and say, hey, whatever you do, let's keep on working on that, and we'll be great. So
there's a pre-arb deal.
Yep. Pre-arb.
Talk about a guy that would bet on himself, I think, 1,000,000 times over. I know he's been banged up, but one of the 280 great hit tools we've ever seen. And that guy's taking the money up front too. J-Rod, the J-Rod show. He calls himself the J-Rod show. He took the deal. So yeah, again, it kind of puts it in perspective there. I know those deals were a little bit more money. Braves.
Braves are innovators, right? And
Right.
culture. They fall into the culture bucket too, because
Mhm.
again, Alex Anthopoulos preached continuity. Continuity breeds culture. It was Freddie Freeman and Dansby Swanson, but they found culture guys again. And I think they have those
Astros.
guys. Astros, I think are right. They're growth. They're developers.
So that's where it's interesting. I think they are all three, and that's why they're a dynasty.
Yeah.
They're innovators with the way that they use cameras and like technology
Right.
to optimize movements, which is really fascinating.
They were
And
one
and
of the
there's some,
first they were one of the first organizations using video for their minor leaguers.
and then at the big league level, cameras from every damn angle. There's some really cool stories about Charlie Morton and what he unlocked there, even JV, Verlander really, connecting out there. And then of course now it's trickled down through their whole farm system. Had Joey Loperfido on the call up, one of the best. I think he's a top 10 prospect in that Astro system. Really, really smart dude as well. And he kind of just talked about what they have from top to bottom there. And it's like, everybody knows who he's like. I'm just another guy in high A, but everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows what my strengths and weaknesses are. There's people that come up to me that I don't even know, just random people within the organization that just like, you don't even know what their role is, but they know everything about you. And it's just like, that's the culture side of it too. Right. So like there's just something there. And I think the dynastic franchises have multiple of the buckets. Right.
Right.
Let me get another one for you.
Cardinals is culture, right? They are
Culture,
the gold
culture,
standard
culture.
when it comes to culture.
Culture and a smart ass dude in John Mozeliak just at the top of it. Let's see here. I want another team that's a little bit tougher. Guardians.
Guardians. Okay, so Guardians are culture in a different way. And I'll spin
I would
it
have said
to-
grow.
You would have said growth. Okay, so I say a little bit of growth, but I say a lot of culture, because culture is what breeds identity. And the Guardians have an identity, right? Everybody that enters their system and they seek guys that fit this bucket, they want bat to ball hitters. They want pitchability pitchers. That's the identity. And they say, if you are a Cleveland Guardian, you are going to buy into this. You are going to be such a good pitchability guy. And that's what they've gotten from Bieber. That's what they have developed in Tristan McKenzie. That's what they've gotten in Cal Quantrill. Shit, man. I mean, he's pitchability out the ass. And so many of these pitching prospects that they have, right? Gavin Williams is a pitchability guy that happens to have really good stuff. I mean, Nick Casey, Mace, like they've kind of aced it with the college arms coming up. Logan Allen, another guy. Tanner Burns, another guy. And then bat to ball, man. I mean, they just have a bunch of spawns of Stephen Kwan running around. And then Valera is a guy that offers a different flavor. And all these shortstops, Roquillo, Tana. It's crazy what they do in terms of identity. And I think that identity and culture kind of intertwine with Cleveland.
I totally agree. Dodgers.
The Dodgers is tough because they've used money to bypass it, but they are also the gold standard of development and growth.
I think they're missing culture.
I think they're missing culture as well.
And I literally think that's the only reason why they haven't won the World Series. You've had turnover in the managerial spot, right? Where Mattingly couldn't win it there. Roberts, I don't want to get Dodgers fans pissed. Like, you have every right to celebrate 2020. I discredit it to a degree. I'm sorry. You don't have to. You can celebrate your World Series as much as you want. Who cares about my dumbass opinion, right? But like, right. I'm just telling you personally, I discredit it, right? Like, you can only value it so much. And every time we get 60 games through the season, I think about it and I'm like, the season just started. So I would say culture is what's missing, and that's part of the reason is that they've always, kind of signed the blue chip guys. They've thrown a lot of money around. It's, from Manny Ramirez coming in there, Hanley Ramirez coming in and out of there, Manny Machado coming in and out of there. Like that's the way that Adrian Gonzalez, Carl Crawford, they've had so many stars just pop in and out. Even Matt Kemp, who came up with them though, so a little different, but then, got a little too Hollywood and ends up leaving town too. So like, didn't Adrian Beltre even go through there? Like they've had
Dodger, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where, and then David Price, of course, like they've just had a lot of turnover, superstar turnover, which is, that's cool and all, but I think it's hard to build a culture there. But I think they're going to get there because of the growth side of things, right? The way that they are able to build their farm system and continue to scout talent. But I want to see them kind of cultivate their own guys. I think they set the bar so high that it's like, I don't even want to play. I don't want to go into the season with Miguel Vargas at third. I want to package him with 2 other prospects and go get Manny Machado, right? Like that's what I've always felt like the Dodger way has been. And great. That's awesome. You want to put your best foot forward, but I want to see some continuity there. And I think that's kind of what's been missing. And I think they're going to get there. Mookie Betts ain't going anywhere. Freddie Freeman ain't going anywhere. I think Gavin Lux is a guy that they're kind of excited and who's grown up a lot and is a part of what they're doing. I don't know what the plan is with Will Smith, but we'll see.
Okay, so Gavin Lux, I think, is the best example on the hitting side. Julio Urias is the best example on the pitching side when it comes to growth, because these are guys that came up and failed. Julio Urias failed when he was like the next coming of Fernando Mania, right? He was this 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid coming up, making his debut, and he just sucked. Gavin Lux had the yips. So what do? They take a moment, they reflect, and they get better. Julio Urias was a Cy Young finalist this year. Gavin Lux looks like the starting shortstop on opening day for the LA Dodgers. I mean, those guys have turned it around. You look at the minor league ability for guys to develop and grow. I mean, this system is loaded with stars. You mentioned Vargas. How about Bobby Miller and Gavin Stone turning into what they've turned into? Michael Busch is great. Yorbit Vivas. Dustin May has developed and become, one of the most disgusting starters in baseball. And then you also have to look at growth on the major league side. Guarantee you Noah Syndergaard is going to have a better year next year than what he did this past year. Look at Tyler Anderson. He just used 1 year with the Dodgers to parlay it into $40 million with the Angels.
But that kind of goes to my point too. I just want to see a little bit more continuity.
Correct. I'm with you. Like, they need a couple of guys, and I think they have it in Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. They need a couple of guys there that are like, I'm here for the rest of
and I think if Lux has a great first half, he might be a pre-arb candidate, because that bat and that athleticism is just pretty hard to deny at this point, and his versatility allows them to, when they want to go make their big splash, okay, move him to second, move him to third. Hell, he could play the outfield, right? So like, you don't have to worry about it. Oh, why'd we pay him? Now we want to go get somebody else. You can move him around. That might be one of their pre-arb guys now that he started to figure it out. And I think the next generation of prospects, Diego Cartaya is the kind of guy that, you hold on to. I agree on the pitching side of things that they've got some guys that they're going to hold on to. I want to see that Dodger continuity. I think that helps with the culture side of things. I really think that's the only thing missing from this franchise that dominates the regular season and always seems to just come up a little bit short when it's time to go to war.
Yeah. Any other teams that we're missing? I feel like we named a lot of them, right? Atlanta,
we didn't
innovator.
Which one?
Atlanta, I think, is an innovator.
Yeah, Atlanta's an innovator, and then honestly, like some of the other teams, they're not those elite franchises yet, right? Like, what would be the word that you use to describe the San Diego Padres?
Money,
ruthless, like carefree,
money. Like, that's the thing. And what if the Padres or the Mets accomplished recently?
That's the thing. You can't do it with money. You got to have one of those other 3 words that you talked about, which I totally agree with. Reds could be growth. We'll see how it goes.
Reds could absolutely be growth, and we'll see what the continuity's like. We'll see if they hold on to the Steer and the McLean, while Ellie De La Cruz, could possibly be a superstar. Those types of things.
Marlins.
Barf.
Yeah, you can. You literally, you couldn't even stretch to one of those words.
I can't. Change up. I think
change up. Literally, change up is the only word that you can use that is positive
note
about the Marlins.
The only positive word about the Miami Marlins is change up.
Actually,
it's Stottlemyre. The only positive word about the Miami Marlins is Stottlemyre. Dude,
I'd give that guy should be the highest paid player on third highest paid guy on the team, I think.
Yeah, what? Sandy, Jazz, Mel Stottlemyre Jr.?
Correct.
I'm with you.
Correct. When he was up for free agency, I was like, they got to give this dude the super max. Like, you got to do whatever you can.
Full no trade.
Yeah. By all accounts, phenomenal dude too. That is a guy that I'm going to do everything in my power this year to get Mel Stottlemyre Jr. on the podcast, because I've heard nothing but great things about him. And man, I just love to talk to him about like all of the arms that he gets to work with on a daily basis. It's either one of the best pitchers on the planet in Sandy, or you get to help a Jesus Luzardo figure it out, who's one of the most talented pitchers on the planet, and you can be the reason, or Edward Cabrera, you be the reason why, or help out why they're the next, big guy.
That's what I was going to say. Like, every guy through the rotation. I'm going to say favorite thing about working with Sandy. Favorite thing
Yeah.
working
I'm
with
going to do
Sark.
everything in my power, man. Hopefully Niner might be able to help us out with that one a little bit. But it's funny because I was thinking about that for another team out there, like the Blue Jays or whatever, that have struggled to have consistency on the pitching side. Why don't they offer Mel like crazy money?
I don't know. I've got no idea. Or like a Kyle Snyder, right? Like those two are probably the top two.
Crazy cash. Crazy cash.
I think you could work, man. But yeah, it's I think those are the three words: innovator, culture, growth.
Mm-hmm.
Every good organization falls into at least one of those buckets.
Yeah. Before I forget, our new Twitter account, it's linked in the podcast description. Please follow that. We're building that thing up and have a totally new approach to it. You know, we got graphics, we got folks helping us on the graphics side. So our Twitter is even more fun. We've got a lot more going on there. Hypotheticals, kind of things that have been doing really well engagement wise. So really excited about what we're building on the Twitter side. Subscribe to the YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you haven't yet, go check it out. We're really excited about the growth there. Jack and I just broke down the whole Rangers farm system on the call up. Really, really fun stuff over there. A lot of good prospects. And of course, the Guardians system is coming up next. We'll be talking about that early next week. And I'm excited for the content we got coming forward, Jack. You know, I think once we get to 2023, once a lot of the final moves are made, we'll be able to start talking about those predictions and kind of get into previewing this season coming up, which I think this was one of the more eventful off seasons. I don't know if we say this every year, but I thought this was one of the more eventful off seasons I can remember, with a lot of turnover and a lot of, I think, you know, changing of the guard with superstars going here and there, storylines that are fascinating, like a Fernando Tatis. How does he come back? I think there's just so much intrigue across the game that I don't know if I've been more excited for a baseball season in a while. We get the appetizer with the World Baseball Classic, which we'll be covering. This could be a really good year for baseball. And last year, you know, was apparently, by all accounts, a really good year for Major League Baseball, revenue-wise, viewership-wise, all of those things. And I think they're heading in that direction again next year with a lot more teams having a level of interest around them, even like the D-backs of the world, right? That, you know, I'm not turning the TV off when they're on. There's only a few teams at this point. And we can maybe wrap up with this. How many teams are you turning the TV off if they're playing?
Oakland?
Yes.
That might be it.
Oakland, Washington, I got very marginal interest in.
Unless Mackenzie Gore is pitching, I'm turning it off. Yeah.
The Marlins, if Sandy,
like the starting rotation is
yeah, that's the thing. No matter who's pitching there, like I'm interested in who's pitching there.
Yeah.
And the division's so good.
I'm telling you, man, I think
that's about it, man. Pirates, I don't really want to watch the Pirates, but like even then,
O'Neill Cruz.
I'm really excited for the Ke'Bryan Hayes breakout next year. That's going to be one of my big predictions. O'Neill Cruz is must see TV. You know, they've still got good players, but I'd say the Pirates, I'm not that amped about. The Reds, they're going to be fun. They're going to be fun, especially Lodolo, Green. If they start calling up their guys, that's going to be a fun team.
Shit, I want to watch Ashcraft too, man.
Ashcraft and his turbo cutter thing. There's really only like a couple teams. Tigers are darn near unwatchable.
Yeah, okay. A's, Tigers. That's about it. Like even the Royals are young and fun.
You got Bobby Witt, Bascantino, you got Melendez. It's a fun ball club. Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing for baseball right now. That is a really good thing. I love basketball, the NBA. Like you got this all out for Wemby. And teams are just going to start out tanking each other. I think there's a little bit more quality control now in Major League Baseball, which is good because that was a problem before. We were talking about parity issues, and I think baseball is the best it's been in a long time in that regard.
Yes, 100%, man. And we're going to save the sappy. Like, thank you. 2022 was a great year for tomorrow's episode with us three, but I will say 2022 was a great year for just baseball, and 2023 is going to be a very, very big year for us.
I'm excited. And I mean, yeah, I'll try to get my sappy hat on. Peter's really good at that, man.
Peter's great at the sappy shit. Yeah, I think it probably goes Peter, me, you when it comes to tapping into that sappy.
Yeah, side. I mean, yeah, I got a text from Colby today. Like, you've got no emotions, man. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to get in the lab tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to just dig deep down.
Yeah.
But no, this has been a blast. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but a lot to reflect on, a lot to be proud of in terms of just how cool it has been to have this awesome audience, you know, and interact with everybody, which is really fun too. And I've been having a blast with that on Twitter, and people have continued to reach out on Instagram and whatever it may be, Instagram, Twitter, wherever. Sometimes to just say, hey, love the show. Sometimes to ask me a question, sometimes to correct me for something I said. I don't care, whatever it is. It's been awesome interacting with you, because, you know, sometimes we feel like we're just talking to each other on Zoom, and you almost forget how many people are listening. And it's always nice to put a face to the name, or a face to the ambiguous listener, and just see all the awesome people that are out there. So I appreciate those who have reached out. I appreciate those who, you know, we've become friends with through over the last couple of years, and excited to get even more sappy tomorrow.
I'll save my sappy shit for tomorrow. Us three will talk to you then.